We all know Abraham as the father of faith, a giant of religious history. But what if I told you that before he was a symbol of unwavering trust, he was a man crippled by fear? A man who lied to save his own neck and who wrestled with doubt, just like the rest of us. This is the story of how an ordinary man's imperfect faith, forged in fire, led to unimaginable blessings and literally changed the course of history. This is the real story of Abraham. To really get the size of Abraham's faith, you have to see where he started. Not in some holy place, but in Ur of the Chaldeans, a bustling, advanced city in what is now modern-day Iraq. Ur was a hub for trade, but it was also steeped in paganism and the worship of a moon god. It was out of this world of many gods that the one true God broke through the noise and spoke to a 75-year-old man named Abram. The command, right there in Genesis chapter 12, is staggering. Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Just think about that. God didn't give him a map, a destination, or a 5-year plan. He just said, go. Leave everything you've ever known, your home, your culture, your family, and the safety of your father's house. Abram was asked to walk away from everything he knew and step into the complete unknown, based on nothing more than a promise from a God he was just getting to know. And the promise was just as massive as the command. God said, I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. What's amazing is what the scripture says next. So Abram went, as the Lord had told him. He just packed up his wife, Sarai, his nephew Lot, and everything they owned and went. He couldn't have known that this one act of obedience, this first step, would change human history forever. This wasn't just a physical journey of about 600 or 700 miles. It was the start of a spiritual journey that's still impacting us today. Abraham's journey wasn't a straight line. It was full of detours that show his very human struggles with fear and doubt. After he got to Canaan, the land God promised him, a severe famine hit. Instead of turning to God for help, Abraham's faith trembled. Fear took over. He made a call based on his own thinking and went down to Egypt, a place God never told him to go. It's here we see one of his biggest failures. He knew his wife Sarai was beautiful, and he was terrified that the Egyptians would kill him to get to her. So he came up with a plan to save his own skin. He told Sarai, "Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." He was willing to sacrifice his wife's honor to save himself. And just like he thought, Sarai was taken into Pharaoh's palace. But God stepped in. Even with Abraham's cowardice and lies, God protected Sarai and sent plagues on Pharaoh's house. When Pharaoh figured out the truth, he summoned Abraham and sent him away, shamed but safe. It's a powerful moment. Abraham's plan fell apart, but God's plan didn't. It shows us that God's faithfulness doesn't depend on us being perfect. Abraham, the man we call the father of faith, was flawed. He messed up, but he always got back up and returned to God. Back in Canaan, God confirms his promise to Abraham in a really powerful and mysterious ceremony. We know it as the Abrahamic covenant from Genesis 15. Abraham, still without kids and getting old, asks how God's promise of a great nation could possibly come true. God's answer isn't just more words, it's a binding contract. God tells Abraham to prepare a sacrifice of animals. As it gets dark, Abraham falls into a deep sleep, and a dreadful and great darkness comes over him. Then, something amazing happens. A smoking firepot and a blazing torch, representing God himself, pass between the halves of the sacrificed animals. In ancient times, this was how you made a deadly, serious oath. The person passing through was saying, "If I break this promise, may what happened to these animals happen to me." The incredible thing is, only God passes through. He takes on the full responsibility for keeping the promise. It's unconditional. It doesn't depend on Abraham. It depends completely on God's own faithfulness. And in this moment, we get one of the most important verses in the Bible. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. His right standing with God wasn't based on his own perfect obedience, but on his faith in God's promise. Yet, even after all that, human doubt crept back in. A decade went by, and Sarai was still barren. So, she and Abraham came up with another human plan. Sarai gave her Egyptian servant, Hagar, to Abraham to have a child. This led to the birth of Ishmael. But this plan, born from trying to help God, was outside of his promise and caused a huge amount of pain and conflict in the family. It's another moment we can all relate to, a reminder that God's timing and his ways are perfect, even when we can't see the path forward. 13 years after Ishmael was born, when Abraham was 99 years old, God showed up again. He renewed the covenant and changed their names. Abram, High Father, became Abraham, father of a multitude. Sarai became Sarah, or princess. And then God made a promise that seemed completely impossible. He said that Sarah, at 90 years old, would have a son. Abraham fell on his face and laughed to himself, thinking, "Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? Later, when Sarah herself overheard the promise, she also laughed. But God's response to her quiet disbelief is a question that rings through history. Is anything too hard for the Lord? And right on schedule, the impossible happened. Sarah gave birth to a son, and they named him Isaac, which means he laughs. The laughter that started in doubt was turned into the laughter of pure joy. Isaac was the son of the promise, a living, breathing miracle, and proof that God can do what people think is impossible. For years, Abraham and Sarah had waited, stumbled, and doubted. But in the end, God's faithfulness won. The years after Isaac was born must have been filled with so much joy. Isaac was the living proof of every promise God had made. But then came the ultimate test, a command from God so shocking it's hard to even wrap your head around. In Genesis 22, God says to Abraham, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering." Every word there is like a knife twisting. Your son, your only son, the one the whole promise rested on, whom you love. This command seemed to go against everything God had promised. Sacrificing Isaac meant sacrificing the future, the covenant, the entire nation. The Bible doesn't tell us if Abraham argued or questioned. It just says, early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. For 3 days, he traveled with Isaac toward that mountain. Can you imagine the silence, the weight of every single step? Then Isaac, carrying the wood for his own sacrifice, turns to his father and asks that heart-stopping question, "The fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham's answer is an incredible prophecy, a statement of deep faith in the middle of total despair. God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. When they got to the place, Abraham built an altar. He arranged the wood. He then tied up his beloved son Isaac and laid him on it. He reached out his hand and took the knife to kill his son. In that moment, Abraham's obedience was absolute. His faith wasn't in his own ability to understand, but in who God was. The book of Hebrews tells us that Abraham figured God could even raise the dead. He believed God would keep his promise, no matter what. At the very last second, knife in hand, the angel of the Lord called out from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham! Do not lay a hand on the boy. For now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." In that instant, Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. God had provided a substitute. Abraham sacrificed the ram instead of his son, and he named that place Jehovah-Jireh, which means, "The Lord will provide." This name wasn't just about what happened that day. It was a timeless statement about who God is. On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. Because of Abraham's unshakable faith and obedience, God confirmed his covenant with an unbreakable oath, promising once again that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars, and that through them, all nations on earth would be blessed. Abraham's story is our story. It shows us that faith isn't the absence of fear, or doubt it's trusting God right in the middle of it. It teaches us that obedience, even when it costs us everything, unlocks blessings we can't even imagine. Abraham wasn't a perfect man, but he was a man who believed God, and that made all the difference. His legacy isn't just some historical figure. He's a model of faith for anyone who wants to follow God. His journey pointed to an even greater sacrifice to come on another hill, where God would provide his own son, Jesus, as the ultimate lamb to take away the sin of the world. What mountain is God asking you to climb? What promise seems impossible in your life? Abraham's story is a powerful reminder that the God who was faithful to him is the same God who is faithful to us today. He is Jehovah-Jireh, the Lord who sees and the Lord who will provide. If this story about incredible faith connected with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more stories from the Bible. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. How has Abraham's story of struggle and trust inspired you in your own life? Thanks for watching.